mix with the larger community, the larger church?
See, I think, I don't,
That's what I was saying, it's pride, it's all
Pride.
out of pride and ego.
I don't know if I'll go all the way there.
Okay.
I think sometimes reaching out to folks and maybe having the leaders of the group and seeing the benefit, because a lot of folks don't know how to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
They stay in their comfort zone because there's comfort in
Yeah.
doing that.
Exactly.
And so they don't extend themselves, and some of that is fear.
Yeah,
Some of
it's
that, so
fear.
it's not like, oh, I don't like you, it's like, we found a way to be.
Yeah.
But so I think the challenge for St. Philip's is to be able to find some of those leaders and say, what can we do?
That's why she's taking notes.
What can we do? Because just showing up at a service, that's all I need to do. I've done what I'm supposed to do, check. I went to church, I went to mass, I got communion,
Oh, yeah.
check.
That's it.
And so engagement and involvement isn't something that's on their to-do list. And so how do you get that on their to-do list?
Yes.
And how do you get folks to value that for their children and for the benefit of the whole church, that, especially in all that's going on in the world, how do we all communicate better?
Yeah.
And what are they willing to bring to the table? Because everybody's busy, everybody's doing this, so people are trying to check off their list.
And
And going to mass is so important.
Yeah.
And I
We
get that.
recognize that we have over 40 different nationalities represented in this parish. 15 years ago, when we started having an international night,
Yep.
mass, bringing all the cultures together, recognizing, encouraging the different cultures to wear their whatever ethnic clothing. And then we put all these tables out there and cook all this food, and it's all free. And I guess that was our kind of way of checking off the box. Okay, once a year we bring everybody together and we recognize that we are a very diverse parish. But if you look internally into our masses, they're like, each mass is a different culture. It's a different community.
If you go to 9 o'clock versus.
Well, now 4 o'clock, but that's the gray-haired people. Okay, that's the ones who want to check the box, get it off. I've gone to mass Saturday afternoon and I'm going home. Saturday, 7:30 on Sunday morning is pretty much the same way. The 9 o'clock is a different culture altogether. We have a different.
9 o'clock is mostly Americans.
Yes, and
most
the
of
choir
Americans,
is mostly Americans.
Yep.
And then 10:45 has been
It's African
traditionally,
mass.
yeah,
They
it's
even call
more
it
where the
the
Nigerians
Nigerian mass.
have, it's become more the African. And it's interesting because they have their own clock, their own time too.
That is not Nigerian time, that is more culturally.
Okay, 10:30 could be 11:15.
They come in when they come. I get that.
And the Hispanics
That's
are the
other
same
people's
way.
time.
Because Father Santo might start the 7 o'clock mass on Sunday, 7 o'clock, right? On Sunday evening?
Yes, Sunday evening.
Mine started 7:15.
Yep.
Part of that Santo's fault, but. So it's interesting how it's each within the different masses that we have here. It's almost cultural.
Yeah, that's cultural, the timing is cultural.
Now, when they had the Nigerian mass, do you have a Nigerian priest
Nope.
speaking?
Sometimes we invite the the Nigerian priests to come, and it just depends on availability.
Right, because I was gonna ask you, in those groups, do the priests act just like the rest of the people with that division?
No, and the division is subtle, so you wouldn't really see if you're an outsider, you will never see the division.
Well, because if anybody
You
could
don't
have
see the division, you will
Right.
never see it.
someone who could have a lot of influence on that will be the priest.
Yeah, it will be the priest.
Bringing together these, we're not different.
Yeah.
See, you all said something you just said something that I think is important. I think this is a question that your leadership has to ask. What kind of church do we want to be?
Yeah.
Because because of the Catholic faith that all people belong. If I was born in South America, I'd probably be Catholic. If I was born in parts of Nigeria, I'd probably be Catholic. So because of the faith brings us together,
Right.
and that's what gets us to check that box. Went to mass, did my this, and so you can check that off, but we haven't integrated, we haven't engaged, we haven't learned from each other. There's no mixing. The way you just described your mass, each mass has its own flavor. It has its own kind of description. And so people know where to show up. It's almost an unspoken,
It is
Even sit in the
very
same
unspoken.
places.
It's very difficult
They do.
because as far as mass is concerned.
What are you doing sitting in my
My
seat?
seat.
Yes, there you go, there you go.
So I want you to finish your thought, though.
So my thought is, and I think this is because what you're saying is very real. People are tied to St. Philip's because of their religious
Faith.
beliefs. You know,
Yes.
I was born Catholic, so therefore I must go to a Catholic church. And so you look for that one that fits you, but what does the leadership want? What does the church want in terms of an integration of
We're
people
starting-
and learning from each other? Because you all have a microcosm of the world
Yep,
in your church.
yep.
How do you benefit from that? How does that help? Is there any value other than just giving mass than bringing people together? You know, I live in Fayette County and I have a youth group of 50 kids from all 5 of the high schools, public high schools that we have. And all those high schools have their own flavor, but we put them in groups where each group of 10, 2 representatives of each high school. Now they're forced to learn, and now I'm like, oh wow, my goodness. I thought those kids that went to Sandy Creek were like this, and I thought those kids who went to Starsville were those star billionaires. You know, so they had all these perceptions
Yep.
about who the other folks are, and so here you have all this stuff going on, and are you taking advantage of the wealth of your community in terms of how are we because we may be given to the mission, writing a check, to mission things and doing all the right things as a good Catholic, but here we have all this other stuff. But never shall the twain mix.
Yeah.
You can't force that. The benefit of what you're doing is this young man right here and his little brother, okay? The next generation of young people that we're raising, that's coming up through this church, we hope will have a different perspective on the different cultures.
Maybe, but I would still challenge the leadership to ask questions about, you're right, you can't force people to be together. You can't. So you can have your silos. And that may work. And
Years
that's
ago,
okay.
it was Hispanics. We had a percentage of Hispanics. We had enough of them that we decided, okay, we need to have a mass at 12:30. And then all of a sudden, there were more of them than 12:30, so we created the 7 o'clock mass on Sunday
Better
night.
job, though, somehow integrating the Hispanics in
Yes.
the community than we are with the Nigerians.
And look at what happened. Father John can speak Spanish enough to be able to do a mass. He brought in Father Santo.
Yeah, but we
Are
don't
you
need
going
to
straight
speak
to another
English
session?
to get
No,
to
this
reach the
one's
Nigerians.
this
we're
one's.
running late.
Oh, you've already started the second one?
Yeah,
This is
5
part
minutes.
1 and part 2.
it's part 1.
Part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I was,
Almost done
okay, I was confused, thank you.
Did she say we're almost done?
No, we're not. This is part 2. Did you want straddling?
Yeah.
You can come in. You're just going to come midway in and just
Okay.
just come in and we'll introduce you to you. Oh, there's a seat here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You were saying something.
though. Oh, we're still having difficulty reaching, or somehow inviting the Nigerian community to become more
Engaged
in with the rest of the community. And I know what you're saying about the leaders, is reaching out to the leaders. So if I'm going to have an event, what I do is I contact the leaders of each community. I'll contact Tony.
Yeah.
I'll contact, Tony's the leader of the Nigerian community, or I'll contact the leader of the Filipinos or the Hispanic community or whatever. And that's the best way to get them to come, but then they still want to stay within their own community, whatever we're doing. It's very hard to say, okay, well, this group is gonna meet here this night, and.
It'd be nice just to have all your leaders together and have, you have leaders from each one of those communities.
Yeah.
And talk about the whole church and what the value is and ask the questions of your leadership, here are some observations of our church. We have pockets. No, we can't force everybody to be here, we have pockets. And so we actually represent, a snapshot of the world. Is there an advantage for us to do anything together versus having this mass at this time, this one that caters to folks, so you stay in your silo, or is there an advantage? And people say, no, let's do it, or maybe, so it's worth asking the question.
Yeah.
And I think if you have leaders from all of those groups, it's that leadership group that would help.
Let me just add something there, and I think it's important that you bring on the leaders need to be aware. So, what we do in Nigerian communities, once a year, we have the Nigerian Day celebration here at church, right?
Is it October 1?
October 1, yes. And it's,
That's Independence Day for
Independence
Nigeria.
Day for us, and so I think this year was maybe the 5th year or the 6th year one, and slowly you're beginning to see that other people in the community are really not interested. So when we have those masses, it's just us. And part of it is, and I don't know what the issue is or what the reasoning is. It could be that people from other culture really don't understand, and you can't blame them for not understanding. And also, when we do have these things in our own tradition and in our way of celebrating Mass, it's going to take a little bit of time, like you were saying. We don't come to Mass early, right? But when we do have those things and those special occasions, Mass is not going to be 1 hour, right? So I think other congregations maybe are not tolerant a little bit of that, so they choose not to come on that day. Or some of them, when they come, they really don't understand what's happening, so it's more like it's a surprise to them. So definitely this year, I noticed there were very few people in attendance, except it was just a Nigerian community. And I think that does create the divide that you're seeing, where you're having just Nigerians show up at 10:45 Mass, Americans show up at 9 o'clock Mass, and 7 o'clock Mass. And so you're having those silos that we're talking about. I don't know what's gonna take to break those silos, but if it continues the way it's continuing, you pretty much are just going to be left with just a church that is not integrated, a church that appears to be integrated, but they're not.
Yeah, when we say we're multicultural, but we're not intercultural.
Yes, we're not, because I mean, in general, the population and the congregation is really not understanding, and it will take the leader to force that understanding. It could be as simple as just announcing it.
Forced.
I'm not saying to force it, but more like to bring awareness.
Well, and I think that's part of a journey that you may want to take together and ask the questions.
It's been 5
Facilitate it.
years. It's been 5 years, and I can tell you that there've been several suggestions. We've been approached. One of the approach was, let's move it from Sunday to Saturday. But nobody ever gave us a reason why you want to move it to Saturday. Why are you saying we cannot have the celebration on Sunday? Why should we move it to Saturday? Because so for us, it makes it seem like,
the Mass?
yeah, the Mass celebration, the Nigerian Day celebration. So for us, it makes it seem like, oh, you don't want us to celebrate this on Sunday. You want us to celebrate it on Saturday, where it's not
Right,
going to be
because-
in a.
Right, I mean, there's a logical explanation, because, like you just said, the Mass is for everyone.
Yeah,
It's not just a Nigerian Mass.
yeah.
And so if there's a Nigerian celebration and it's going to be just Nigerian and have the culture and all that represented, we might as well move it out to a separate time where the celebration can happen in full, rather than have a Mass which is meant for everybody, because then
Right.
you can't have just Nigerian
It's
celebration.
When you
one
have
day.
nine-
It is one day in a year.
Doesn't matter, it's still a Mass for
Right.
everybody.
Yeah, it's a match for everyone, and we're talking about diversity, we're talking about culture, we're talking about bringing everybody in. It's a match for one day, one in a year, in a community that is supposed to foster all this culture. So
But to see, the thing is, you can't jump steps. If you have to build understanding, have to build to reason. If people don't, if you haven't done the infrastructural steps, you can't get there. And you say, this is what we do, and everybody should just come. There's some things that have to happen beforehand. So if people are gonna come and celebrate that event, let's say there's another event, let's say there's a German holiday, or there's another holiday that people wanna celebrate. How do you get other folks there? And so what you're talking about is, you're gonna leave us.
Yeah, I missed a very crucial part one.
Okay.
So let me get to another group that starts. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But you're a Nigerian, I can
Yeah,
tell.
I am absolutely, but I wish I had known. But I missed the whole of part one.
Okay.
It's gonna get better.
I just have a conversation.
Do the Nigerian becomes part of, let's say, fundraisings in the church, right? Because I want to give you an example of something. In Holy Trinity, we don't have that diversity. We have either Hispanic, mostly Mexican, and we have one Nigerian family I know of, and she participates, but he comes to church and everything, but, okay. So when they have fundraisings, one of the biggest attractions is food. So now, and it's taken a while, when they have a fundraising, and by that I mean the Mexican community, everybody comes for the tamales. You know, that's a one way to try to integrate. You can, you can't. You see what I'm
We've
saying?
done that, so I would say for me, right, there's certain things that is happening in the church that I come to. I come to St. Martin de Porres. Last year when they had their fashion show, I was there. Year before last when they needed something and I cooked food and I brought
Well,
it.
it was just you or more?
There were some Nigerians, so there's always either one or two. I'm not gonna say everyone comes out, but there's always one or two that shows up to events. And we're always present. You're not going to see a whole group of us.
One or two out of a huge.
Yeah, out of a
community.
huge community, and we're just talking about the checklist. So a lot of us are going to sell, and a lot of us work. Most of them work on weekends and they work on evenings. Most of our women are nurses. They work in the evenings. They work at nighttime. These events are held in the evening, so they're not going to participate. The only ones that you're going to see are those ones that are not work. I am not a nurse. My time is more flexible, except when I'm busy on the weekend with the kids. I always make sure I come to an event. There is no event here that I don't show up to. The only time I've ever missed something was this year's international night, and I took my kids to soccer that night, and by the time I came back, I don't know what happened, it ended earlier this year. By the time I came back and drove there, it was gone, and the whole place was closed. But so, there's always Nigerian present in some things. We are there, we're touching something, whether it's liturgy services or whatever. I do children's liturgy. So we're there, we're doing something, but it's not in a whole group. So you were talking about those checklists. You come to Mass, you might see 100 Nigerians. You have a function, you're probably gonna see 3 or 4 or 5, right? So that is the truth. And part of it is not because they don't wanna come out. Part of it is more like that time.
Is that true of just Nigerians? Is it true of other groups?
No, I would say it's mostly the Nigerians that we only get 1 or 2 or 3, that come. Because like I said, I think the Hispanic community has, we have probably 75 to 80% Hispanics here today, so it's not as, but I really wanted the Nigerian community to come to this, at least, especially this. Because I know that they're dealing with the same attitudes with the Hispanic families where they're reluctant or fearful to share their children in our culture because they have these myths or images that they have in their mind.
And they do.
We're all druggies here in the United States, so.
Yeah. They do, and majority, I mean, I can speak for my family, so majority, and what you're going to see in a typical American and Nigerian family, for Hispanics, they're more so their own workers. Most of them don't really work for somebody, they work for themselves, so their time is flexible. For Nigerians, we don't have our businesses. Most of us work for somebody. So, and like I said, I told you, majority, if you count 10 Nigerian women